A violinist is suing Will Smith, claiming retaliation after he alleges that he was fired for reporting harassment while on tour with Smith.
Earlier this year, I was hired to be a performer on a major tour with somebody who is huge in the industry. So I was excited, proud of myself for getting the opportunity. Unfortunately, some things happened, and I can't get into the details of exactly what that was because it's already a legal issue right now. But the reason why I'm speaking out about this is because getting fired or getting blamed or shamed or threatened or anything like that simply for reporting misconduct or safety threats at work is not okay. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there who have been afraid to speak up, and I understand. And if that's you, I see you. And that's pretty much it.
For most of his life, Will Smith was Hollywood's golden boy, the guy who would never do anything to mess that up. But imagine all of that coming crashing down. From lawsuits claiming misconduct to his own son exposing decades of secrets, Will Smith is facing the kind of issues that might actually destroy his entire life and career.
Say to all of you, there is no part of me that thinks that was the right way to behave in that moment. I am deeply remorseful, and I'm trying to be remorseful without being ashamed of myself. I made a mistake, and I'm trying not to think of myself as a piece of shit.
When you become as big as Will Smith, you start making decisions that normal people never have to make. In 2008, Will and Jada did something that should have raised more eyebrows than it did at the time. They opened a school, the New Village Leadership Academy. It was in Calabasas, California, and they poured millions into it. On paper, it sounded great. A progressive school for the kids of Hollywood elite, giving them the best education money to buy. But here's what came out later. The school wasn't really a regular school. It was built on something called study technology, which came from the Church of Scientology. Teachers were required to train at the Scientology Celebrity Center. The walls had portraits of L. Ron Hubbard hanging on them. Former staff members later said the place was essentially a Scientology school in everything but name. The school closed in 2013 after parents started pulling their kids out. But this is where people start asking questions. Why would someone like Will Smith risk his reputation by being tied to something so controversial? One theory that keeps popping up in online forums is coercion. Scientology is known for something called auditing, where members are pushed to open up about their deepest secrets, fears, and past trauma while hooked up to an e-meter. These sessions aren't just private conversations. They're recorded and stored in permanent files. Gone Deal even claimed the organization had compromising material on Will Smith, allegedly something like a secret tape, which was used to keep him in control.
Allegedly something like a secret tape, which was used to keep him in control.
You heard about this tape that's being shopped around, a Diddy and another Mill? They say the other Mill is an A-list celebrity.
I would wonder if he's white or black. And if I'm looking at any black guys that are A-listers that's bigger than Diddy, it's only one that I could come up with, and there's a few I could come up with. Will Smith, he's bigger than Diddy.
Meanwhile, there were other things happening that people noticed. The friendship with Dwayne Martin, for example. Dwayne was Will's old friend, another actor who never quite reached Will's level of fame, but he was always there at different events. Some people thought it was just an elite group of Hollywood friends, but others started to notice that their bond seemed more intense than your typical friendship. There were whispers about these two being in a relationship. However, those conversations never quite made it to mainstream media because Will's team was so good at controlling the narrative. And then there was this marriage scandal. Will and Jada seemed fine on the surface, but people who watched them closely noticed something off. The way they interacted in interviews appeared fake. The PDA seemed a little too forced, like they were reminding themselves as much as everyone else that they were in love.
You know Esther Perel is coming to the table. She's going to be at the red table. Would you say she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship?
I would say don't just start filming me without asking me
Oh my goodness.
if you could film me.
Esther, come help us again, please. I'm still dealing with foolishness.
Cause she don't just.
Would you say that she helped us heal the hurts that we caused between one another?
My social media presence is my bread and butter, okay? So you can't just use me for social media and not, don't just start, well, I'm standing in my house.
So, let's fast forward a bit because around 2016, something changed. Jada would later say that was the year they started living entirely separate lives. That's not a normal marriage. That's something else. And the fact that she felt comfortable saying that publicly, that tells you how dirty things got.
You and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided...
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though.
Yeah,
Marriages have that.
Yeah, we basically, we broke up.
We decided that we were going to separate for a period of time, and you go figure out how to make yourself happy, and I'll figure out how to make myself happy.
Well, at that particular point in time, it was indefinite.
Yeah, I really felt like we could be over.
We were over.
During the pandemic, Jada sat down on Red Table Talk and dropped a bomb. She talked about an entanglement with August Alsina. She said the relationship happened during a time when she and Will had separated. And she said Will had given his blessing to the relationship, something Will awkwardly confirmed in the same interview.
From there, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement with August.
The whole thing was uncomfortable to watch, not because of the affair itself, but because of how staged the whole thing felt. It was like they were acting out some scene about marriage and forgiveness for an audience. And nobody could tell if any of it was real. The phrase entanglement became a meme. People couldn't stop talking about how weird the whole thing was. But here's something else that doesn't get discussed enough. In 2016, the year Jada said their marriage ended, there was also the Oscars boycott. Jada was one of the leaders of the Oscars So White protest, and she organized a boycott of the ceremony. Chris Rock made jokes about her boycott during that 2022 Oscar show. And here's where it gets really awkward. There were rumors going around that Chris Rock had asked Jada out on a date after the divorce talk started circulating. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. But it's not hard to see why that joke about Jada might have hit a nerve that night. Will wasn't just reacting to a joke about his wife's appearance. He might have been reacting to years of tension and complicated history that nobody outside their circle really understood.
To my queens out there that have been cheated on by their men, it's not your fault. Stop making it your fault. To my kings out there that have been cheated on by their women, stop making it your fault. Yes, women cheat too. Now here's the other thing. This is one of the strongest forces in the universe that we have to deal with. This is about self-mastery. It's not even about what's going on in a relationship. This is about self-mastery.
Now, we're getting into territory that gets a little more serious because after the Oscars, things didn't settle down the way Will's team probably hoped they would. Suddenly, people who had been quiet for years started talking, and they weren't holding back. Tisha Campbell is one of those people. She was married to Dwayne Martin, that friend I mentioned earlier, the one who's been in Will's inner circle for decades. And Tisha has suggested that there's some hidden truth about Dwayne Martin and Will Smith relationship that would eventually come to light. But that's not all. Bryce Gray, an actor who is in Empire and also had some creepy connection with Will Smith.
He's surrounded by a whole lot of strength. He's surrounded by a whole lot of love. And all he has to do is add discipline, and he's gonna be all right.
Breyer later had a meltdown where he talked about the industry and how different things were hurting him.
Anybody can do anything. It's just like, I'm not normal no more. Being a celebrity sometimes comes with, everybody wants to be successful in a celebrity and stuff like that, but it comes with, sometimes, and to allegations is kind of crazy.
Again, heavy stuff, and it's hard to verify, but the fact that multiple people are saying similar things that starts to feel like the truth. And then there's Jaguar Wright. She has made some shocking claims about Hollywood power circles that go beyond on Will Smith specifically. She has talked about rituals and the darker side of the entertainment industry that regular people never see.
Because of all that he talked, he say nothing about Bashir. He played his television father
Right.
He was on set. He saw what Charlie Mack and them were doing. He knew they were taking those young boys to Diddy. They all knew.
Whether you believe everything she says or not, she's part of a conversation that's happening right now. But here's the person who matters most in this specific story, Bilal Salam. If you don't know who he is, let me explain. Bilal says he was Will Smith's childhood friend. He was there in the beginning back in Philadelphia when Will was just a kid with dreams. He later became Will's personal assistant who had access to parts of Will's life that regular people never see. And now, Bilal has become one of the most serious threats to Smith's reputation and potentially his freedom. In December 2024, he filed a lawsuit against Jada for $3 million. But that lawsuit is just the tip of the iceberg because what Bilal is saying in that lawsuit and in media appearances since then, it's the kind of stuff that makes you question everything you thought you knew about Will Smith.
This is unlike him, right? So, all right, I open the door to Dwayne's dressing room, and that's when I see Dwayne and having an with Will.
Let me process that for a second.
There was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Dwayne was standing up, killing him. Like, there was murder in there.
In late 2023, Bilal went on Unwind with Tasha K. And what he said there wasn't some rumor that could be ignored easily. He was describing an encounter between Will Smith and his longtime best friend, actor Dwayne Martin, that he witnessed with his own eyes. Now, I'm not going to repeat all the graphic details here because some of this stuff is hard to listen to. But the point is this: Bilal wasn't making accusations. He was providing detailed testimony about what he saw. And the way he described it wasn't a one-time thing or a misunderstanding. It was an ongoing situation that he says he witnessed multiple times. And then there was the other part of what Bilal said. He made claims about Wills that have been circulating in media houses for years, but never came from someone with his level of access. He talked about the pinky toe thing, this crude metaphor that compared Will's anatomy to Dwayne's in a way that was meant to emasculate and humiliate.
Jada was the woman that everybody wanted, and Will needed that validation to have that type of woman.
You saw her say that Will Smith had a small dick?
Oh, I am saying to you, if a woman is used to something the size of a baby leg and you come in with a pinky toe, there's nothing you can do to please her. You can buy her 80 cars, you can get her 80 private jets. If she's itching for that baby leg, she want that baby leg. You can beat a person so much that they fall into submission.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what's true and what's not. That's for the courts to decide. But what I can tell you is Bilal isn't the only person talking. Now, in January 2026, someone else filed a lawsuit. His name is Brian King Joseph. You might recognize him from America's Got Talent. He was a finalist on the show, a violinist with some serious skills. And in 2024, he got hired to be part of Will Smith's tour. But what he's claiming in his lawsuit is serious. According to reports, Will Smith allegedly showed predatory behavior and was purposely grooming and preparing him for what he describes as possible exploitation. Brian says Will told him, and I quote, "You and I have such a special connection that I don't have with anyone else." Now, on the surface, that sounds like a compliment, but when you look at it through the lens of what's being alleged, that's a classic grooming technique. Making the target feel special and indebted, lowering boundaries so that future advances become harder to refuse.
When people have power, people take advantage of it. People know that they can just dangle a carrot in your face. Well, they don't know. They assume that, okay, because I'm Will Smith and because I'm an A-list actor celebrity, then you are going to drop and do whatever it is that I say, and I can help build you opportunities. And hey, you're a violinist and you're on tour because of me.
You can see it in Jaden's reaction. His body language is pure rejection. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Reports came out that will try to do something similar on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
You're not looking kiss my son. I can kiss my son. Jaden, come on.
Are you okay? God, this is ridiculous.
So, this isn't a one-time cultural misunderstanding. This is a pattern. Now, why does this matter now? Because we're looking at everything through a different lens. When the grooming allegations came out, people started going back and rewatching these clips. And what looks like just an over-affectionate dad before now looks like something else. It looks like a pattern of not respecting physical boundaries, of treating younger people under his authority as props for his public image rather than as human beings with their own autonomy.
You know, I love him, Ellen.
At age 15, Jaden asked to be an emancipated minor. He wanted to legally separate from his parents away from whatever was happening in that house. And Jaden's behavior in the years since, it's been very messy. He wore skirts and high-profile campaigns. He tweeted philosophical nonsense that didn't make sense. He talked about speaking Twilight and hunting vampires. Will publicly praised all of this as being fearless, but recently Jaden himself posted something that reframed everything. He wrote, "All the weird __ you've ever seen me do was me thinking I was totally normal. So now sometimes I try to act weird on purpose. So y'all think it's on purpose. But at the end of the day, I've been trying to fit in this whole time, and I guess it's not exactly going to plan." Well, that's not the statement of a fearless artist. That's the confession of a young kid who grew up so disconnected from normal human experience that he didn't even know what normal looked like anymore. When you start putting these pieces together, the kisses, the Scientology school, the emancipation request, the weird behavior that Jaden himself now says was a cry for help, you got to wonder what was going on in that house.
You have kids and you love them and you're proud of them. You just want to kiss them in their mouth sometimes.
We'll have to get you over that. Next time you're here, I got you in my underwear. I'm going to get you some.
No, I shouldn't have told her.
I'm going to get you some ice.
No, my baby boy, he's never leaving me ever. Ever. No emancipation for the Smith.
Let's talk about the time when Will Smith was making the movie Ollie. According to comedian Paul Rodriguez, who co-starred in the movie, something changed in Will's personality during that time. Paul has described working on that set as a nightmare. He says Will underwent a personality transformation. He became abusive, cruel, the opposite of the charming guy the public knew. Paul even said that it might have been the steroids Will was using to get bulked up for his role. He called it roid rage. He said Will would treat him like garbage, all because of some incident where the real Dr. Ferdy Pacheco, who Paul was playing in the movie, insulted Will with racial slurs. Now, Will couldn't fight back against Dr. Pacho, who was the real thing. So, according to Paul, Will took out his anger on the guy he could push around, the guy who needed the job, the guy who couldn't fight back. And this isn't just about old stories. We got current stuff, too. Westbrook Incorporated, the media company that Will and Jada founded, has some interesting reviews on Glassdoor. Former employees describe evil management, a toxic culture, an environment where the founders' egos drive every decision and nobody is allowed to push back. Then there's this lawsuit where a female producer settled a claim against a Westbrook-affiliated entity. She claimed she was marginalized by what she called a male entourage. She said she was fired for complaining about the toxic culture. That lawsuit didn't get as much attention as some of the other stuff, but it paints a picture of a company that's not just poorly run, but actively hostile to the people who work there. And this is where it gets messy, because for years, people told stories about working with Will Smith that didn't match the nice guy image. Here's something else worth considering. Will Smith's situation, it's not happening randomly. This is part of something much bigger going on in industry right now. The whole model of celebrity culture is shifting and a lot of the old rules don't apply anymore. Think about what's happened in the last few years. The Diddy scandal exposed some dark stuff about Hollywood party culture. Creepy became the word of the moment as people came forward with stories about what allegedly went down at those parties. And when one domino falls, others tend to follow.
Both buy, they do weird things in their house, and young men have left their house screaming to get away from them in their mentorship. Meek Mills, Bashir Gray.
The public is just not buying the celebrity image anymore. We're past the point where someone can be charming in an interview and have everyone forget about the allegations. We're past the point where a charitable foundation or a carefully worded apology can make everything go away. So, what do you do when your public image starts collapsing? When the lawsuits are piling up and the public trust is gone? If you're Will Smith, apparently you try to stage a comeback.
I saw a guy on the internet the other day who said he used to be your security guard, who said that when you were dating J-Lo, Will Smith and Jada tried to pick her up on a threesome and you were going to beat up Will Smith. Is that true?
In early 2025, Will launched his big return with a new album. And the reaction was not great. People called it corny. The whole thing felt like an attempt to manufacture relevance rather than something genuine. The music didn't chart. After all the hype and expectation, it basically disappeared. 20 years between albums, and the result was something nobody wanted to hear.
People don't realize that one bad night is up 10.
Then there was the single Pretty Girls released to promote the album. Got a 60 dislike ratio on YouTube. Critics called it a midlife crisis in song form. People made fun of the lyrics. The whole thing became a meme. And that's not the kind of attention you want when you're trying to rebuild your reputation. But Will didn't stop there. He reached out to people for help. Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, big names in the music industry who might give him some credibility with younger audiences. He tried to get advice from people who understood how to stay relevant. Whether those conversations actually happened or what was said, we don't know. But the fact that he felt he needed to ask for help tells you something about how desperate the situation had become. Then came the collaborations KSI, XQC, and Brooke Monk, who all have a young audience. These are people who have the attention of demographics Will had lost. And the strategy was basically to leech off their audiences to be associated with them in hopes that some of their cool would rub off.
We good. That's a funny ass clip, but we good.
Yeah, no, because like old people is cheating.
Yeah, that
you can't do, because old people are like inherently funny.
It's true. They do a lot of funny, stupid,
really
stupid stuff, man.
I'm gonna wipe it down real quick.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're holding it down, though.
We're holding it down.
Yeah.
The KSI thing was very fishy. They did a song together, and it was clearly positioned as Will trying to stay relevant by partnering with someone 20 years younger. People called it a publicity stunt, and honestly, it felt like two people who had no business working together being put together by their respective teams. And then there was the King's Cross station thing. June 2025, Will showed up at a busy London train station and performed his old hits 90s stuff, Fresh Prince material. The idea was clearly to recapture some of that old magic to remind people of where it all started. But the crowd looked completely dead. And here's what really kills the vibe about all of this comeback stuff. Reports say his team poured money into social media algorithms. They were trying to force his content into people's feeds. The whole thing just looks sad. And here's the thing about the entertainment industry. It trains people to sell a version of themselves that isn't real. It rewards the performance and punishes the authenticity. And Will Smith was always great at the performance. Maybe the performance was so good that he lost track of who he actually was as a human. Or maybe he knew exactly who he was and just did a really good job of hiding it. That's the question, isn't it? Well, let me know your thoughts on this mess Will Smith has created. And I will see y'all in the next video.